Once upon a time, two friends joined forces to bring you the best in horror entertainment. Brian from the north, Tim from the south, each bringing their own unique perspective to the horror community. Movie reviews, Blu-ray releases, beer pairings, games, and more. Welcome to your new home for horror. This is Civil Gore.
With Halloween approaching, of course, horror movies are on everyone's mind. So we thought it'd be great to have one of our favorite past guests and buddy David Weiner to come on and not only discuss the sequel to his astounding documentary In Search of Darkness, but Halloween in general. So welcome back, David.
Happy to be here, and happy Halloween and happy haunts and all the above and everything below.
Yeah, exactly. This is the season, I think, with 2020, the way it's been, I think most horror fans have been kind of like, they've kind of put this like, let's get to Halloween, please. You know, I mean, and while it's not what we wanted, I'm sure in every way, we're here at least, right? We made it.
I read a really interesting article, and I now can't cite the exact source. It was a scientific article that in a science journal that a friend passed along to me, saying that horror fans and fans of like post-apocalyptic films, people who regularly enjoy that for their own entertainment, are much more equipped psychologically to handle what's been going on than the average Joe and Jane. So I will choose to believe that that is true.
Well, I agree with that too, and because I've seen that in a couple of places also, and I always come to mind when they first the pandemic first started here, and everyone's like, you got to wash your hands, you got to use hand sanitizer, and then they said like, okay, we could be dealing with this and that and this. I kind of like picture that scene from Rudy. Remember when he goes, "You ready for this?" And he's like, "I've been ready for this my whole life." I kind of feel like we're all Rudy. Like the horror fans are all Rudy now.
Yeah. Well, before we get into the 80s, I would like to see if you've had a chance to check out some of the more recent horror movies that have come out this year, because there's actually been, despite theaters shutting down and despite a lot of productions shutting down, there's actually been quite a few really good horror movies coming out this year.
Well, I would like to say that I have, but I've been living in 80s land through and through for the last year. And so I haven't seen a lot of new stuff. Of course, thinking about when was the last time I was in a theater, that had to have been either early March or before then. But in terms of brand new stuff, I'm not ingesting very much. The newest stuff that I've watched is actually Raised by Wolves on HBO, which is sci-fi, yeah. Ridley Scott's sci-fi, which I think is pretty cool. And I keep on trying to watch Lovecraft on HBO, and then in the family room when I'm ready to get going, and it's like a couple minutes in, my son's like, I think I'm going to sit here now. And so
yes, I know the feeling.
I've been thwarted several times, but I want to see Lovecraft. In fact, I will make a Lovecraft random Hollywood story reference. When I remember right before the pandemic kind of went down, when all of a sudden everyone decided, yes, toilet paper is what we need now, more than ever. I went to a couple places trying to find toilet paper, and I found myself having to go to not Home Depot. What's the other?
Oh, Lowe's.
Lowe's. Thank you very much. I went to Lowe's, and there is, and now I'm telling a terrible story because I can't remember her name. She's in Lovecraft. Her name is Jamie.
Oh, is it Jamie Chung?
Jamie Chung. Thank you very much.
She was in Hangover series.
She was in Hangover.
Yeah.
She was in Sucker Punch with Zack.
Oh, yeah.
Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch. I'm not drunk, I swear. I just can't enunciate. But anyway, I remember when I was there at Lowe's, literally trying to find toilet paper at Lowe's. I was in the same aisle as Jamie Chung, and I was just like, oh, there's Jamie Chung. She needs toilet paper too, don't we all?
And it's kind of funny to see that,
So I was just going to say, when I saw her on Lovecraft, I sadly thought of my experience next to her, both of us looking at each other like, where the F is the toilet paper?
Yeah, well, it's so funny how, like, I mean, I'm on Long Island, but, I've been to the city a lot of times, and, a lot of celebrities are in the city too, but I don't seem to see them as much as the small trips when I actually am out in LA. My brother now lives there. I think we saw at least 2 or 3 the last time. The most notable one was Thandie Newton was
Oh, nice.
and being a Star Wars fan and Westworld, I kind of get, my brother was like, I was walking with my sister-in-law and the kids, and my brother's waiting online for this amazing like rotisserie chicken, and he's texting me. He's like Thandie Newton's behind me. Thandie Newton's behind me, and I told my sister-in-law. He says, "Oh, look, Adam's." He says it's in she's next to him, and she goes, "Nah, he always thinks that it's never them." And I'm like, really? So we go walking back, and sure enough, it's like, I'm dead on. I'm like, no, that is her. So we go, and she's asking him all the questions about this place and all the chicken. Of course, I'm trying to get in there, hoping that somehow Star Wars would come up. It just never did. So.
I've been a huge fan of Thandie Newton ever since Flirting in 1991.
Oh,
that was
wow,
one of her
yeah.
first films with Nicole Kidman. When you live in Los Angeles, it can be dime a dozen, and sometimes it gets very surreal. I remember I was at a newsstand reading about Minnie Driver, and she was just in like Us magazine, and I just was like, oh, something about Minnie Driver, okay. And it was something like, gossipy. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, there you go. And I went to go see the movie that I was waiting to go in, and who's in line behind me but Minnie Driver.
Oh my God.
And I wanted to turn and ask her if the thing that I read was true, but I was not going to, A, embarrass her, and B, embarrass her and myself.
Oh my God. Someone should make a short film called Minnie Driver Drives a Mini, just to play on the words. I don't know. She's just driving around. It's like they have comedians in car with coffee. Why not Minnie Driver driving a Mini, right?
Yeah.
She can interview people. So I guess the next one, of course, we want to talk about. We have to discuss it because you're not busy with just one documentary right now, but you have 2 going on there. You have the In Search of Tomorrow, but more catering to our listeners. Of course, you have the sequel to In Search of Darkness, which Tim and I cannot be more excited about because that was like some of the best 4.5 hours of horror ever. And now to know we're getting another 4.5 hours of this, we couldn't be more excited. So I guess just let us know how these projects are going.
Yeah, they're going really well, and thanks. I'm so glad you guys enjoyed it. You guys have been real wonderful cheerleaders of appreciation for that movie, starting a year ago. And now it's playing on Shudder, and a much larger audience is getting to see it, which is super cool. And so there's a whole new wave of appreciation for it for those who are really liking it and recommending it and using it for their Halloween listicles of movies that they want to see, which is super cool. And we really, while we have been working on In Search of Tomorrow, which is coming out next fall, which is all about 80s sci-fi movies, we had a wealth of material, and there was so much more that we wanted to do because In Search of Darkness Part 1 really it scratches the surface. 80s horror, there were just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of movies that came out during that era. And the focus that we did was on some of the bigger franchises, some of the more eccentric choices, but mostly North American films. And that was a very specific choice that I made, but now we have an opportunity to do more. So we got a bunch of new interviews. We're bringing a lot of the material that we never even got to from the first one. We did a bunch of new interviews with some of the original people. So we have like 23 new interviews, 15 new faces. Oh, wow. About 40 people are being carried over. And we're getting, the scope is getting larger. We're looking at Italian movies. We're doing a whole Italian section,
oh, nice.
Talking about Bava and Fulci and Argento, of course. And there's a lot more that we're doing, New Zealand movies and Hong Kong and Japan. I had an interview with Shinya Tsukamoto, the director of Tetsuo, the Iron Man, when he was in Tokyo.
God, wow.
And
you don't really see him in documentaries just popping up like that. That's a great get.
And I hope you like subtitles because he doesn't speak English. But it's super cool to really sort of expand the scope, and also with the opportunity to finally sit down with the likes of, say, Tom Savini, who we were chasing around but could never quite make work for the first one, and Robert Englund and Linnea Quigley and Nancy Allen, among other new faces. They are getting some special treatment this time around with our format, which is going to be the same in that it's going from 1980 to 1989, where we're going down some specific movies each year, and then larger context chapters in between. And we're doing some special stuff with them so we can make sure that we cover the bases that we weren't able to get in terms of their insights from some of the movies we did last time around, like Creepshow or Just to Kill or Nightmare on Elm Street movies.
That's so cool because
Nice,
I mean,
nice.
I could just imagine like taking a day one day and just watching both back to back and just watching like a 9-hour block of this. Like I know I'm going to do that at some point because it's just
they one complements the other. They're very much a continuation. You know, it's almost like you get to the end of 1989, and you reset, but you get a whole new list of movies, and you get a whole new list of chapters, and you get a bunch of new faces, and you get all new perspectives. But it's a continuation of the stuff that you loved in the first one. So if you really did connect with the first one and it really spoke to you with the fact that a lot of these people not only talk about that their own movies and some untold stories, but they talk about how much they love the genre and other films specifically and why. There's plenty more of that this time around, and of course with a world perspective.
cool. Are you gonna afterwards do like one of the Coppola things like they did with The Godfather and just re-edit it all so it's one big saga like like 20 per year?
I think we could do that, or we could do the super cut of the supercut of a supercut doc. I don't know. I don't have quite an answer with that. I think it's like it all comes down to if you have the endurance. A lot of people. I mean, when I made a 4.5 hour movie the first time around, I knew with other movies like Never Sleep Again, and Crystal Lake Memories that there was an audience for, extended length documentaries. So that was sort of the gambit that I hope people would respond to this. But I also designed it in a way that you don't have to sit through it beginning to end. If you want to watch a couple years or a couple chapters and, navigate around or just watch a bit and then come back to it over a couple nights, you can do that. So if you want to spend 9 hours in a button-numathon experience, by all means, please tell me how it is at the end.
Well, we'll do an intermission. We'll go old school. Like at 4.5 hours, we'll take a break. Come back like a half hour later. We'll catch it.
Nice. As long as it's not like a Clockwork Orange where your eye, you're strapped to the chair and someone's got the eye drops, or Dario Argento's opera where you have you have to watch and you've got the little needles that are taped to your eyelids. As long as you're not complaining it like it's like that, then we're good.
Yeah, no. And I got an eye horror thing, so I'd be having trouble doing that anyway. So.
Well, then you're in luck because there's a whole wincing section for you that you might have to close your eyes because the Italians they love their eye trauma.
Oh no!
And so I made an effort to point that out, literally and figuratively.
Okay, so David, part 2 seems to be bigger than the first in terms of some of the stuff around it, like watch parties, the community aspects of what you're doing with it. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, when In Search of Tomorrow came about, we sort of began this experiment to expand beyond the documentary itself with building a community. And so we settled on Discord, and we had watch parties every 2 weeks, and people could interact with other fans and bringing talent in for the watch parties. Like the first watch party we had for In Search of Tomorrow was we watched Flash Gordon, and we had Flash Gordon himself, Sam J. Jones, talking with us, and he had never even done a feature-length commentary on a Flash Gordon disc, and he sat for the entire movie and talked about it with us, which was super cool. And we just thought, how cool is that? We've got to do that for In Search of Darkness as well. So we've built a Discord community. We've been doing it all summer. I think Reanimator was our first one, and we had Jeffrey Combs there, participating in a Q&A, and we've had the likes of Kelly Maroney and Bill Lustig and Adrienne Barbeau. We're really getting some of the big guns to talk about the movies and interact with the fans and do a Q&A, and they're enjoying it, and they're enjoying the reception, and it's a cool experience. So we're offering that in addition to the documentary. You get a 12-month season pass for our online community where we're doing watch parties and special events every 2 weeks, and it's 24/7. when you want to talk to like-minded fans about whether you're sharing your collectibles or, talking about your favorite movies and some subgenres and so on and so forth. And, in this day and age where we're all kind of stuck inside more often than not, or we should be, to not be spreading, COVID, it's a good opportunity to escape with like-minded fans and sort of wallow in the nostalgia that the documentary is providing for 4.5 hours, but you get to live this for the whole year.
Yeah, I gotta order the my copy for the second one. I actually got confused for a second. I'm like, wait a minute, didn't I order this? And I forgot. No, it was the Search of Tomorrow, which I had just ordered. So now I got to make sure I order this. So in
Search of Tomorrow, we did a Kickstarter backing. I think it was in April that we did that. This is not a Kickstarter. This is a pre-sale of the final product. It's already done. I'm putting the finishing touches on the polish and, graphics and sound mix and all that kind of stuff like that. But it's in the can already. So what we're doing is we're doing a pre-sale between now and Halloween. So you can basically, if you want to get your name in the credits and you get all this cool stuff that we're offering only this month, like we're offering 3 posters, we're offering this movie, the digital copy of In Search of Darkness Part 1 and 2 that you get with it. You get a digital download. There's a slip cover. There's an enamel pin. All sorts of fun, cool stuff. And you get 12-month access to the community. Also, if you missed getting a hard copy the last time we did this a year ago, because they're hard to come by, because we're the only ones who are selling them and we're making them sort of, it's not like a steady supply. In addition to buying part 2, if you want to just add a hard copy for an extra $15, you can do that, and you can get a hard copy of. I say a hard copy, in your hands. You can hold the DVD or the Blu-ray versus you can't quite get your hands on the digital copy as easily. So that's kind of the concept. But we wanted to make that available for the completists who want it in their hands as opposed to just streaming it. But they could do that too.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I have the first one. I need to. I'm definitely gonna order the second one because I need to have Civil Gore. We need to be in all 3 credits so far.
Oh yeah, we got to be in the credits.
So we're in the first 2. I know because we're in the one that I ordered for the first In Search of, and then the sci-fi one I have it in there. So because I when I order it, I always put Civil Gore rather than my name. I don't care to see my name in there.
Well, that's good because that makes it's like. You've seen, The Jerk with Steve Martin, where he gets the phone book. The new phone books are here. This is the kind of publicity I've been looking for.
That's what I think too, and that's why I was so excited. I literally make sure everyone if we ever watch Paranormal Activity, I pause to make sure I stop to show everyone my name is in it from that promotion that they had.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
So I'm like I'm trying to rack up credits so I can really be involved in the 6th Degree of Kevin Bacon.
He's building his IMDb resume.
Yeah,
I got very cool. Listen, don't underestimate the power of having your credit in a movie because it's a testament to being at the time that you had an opportunity to back a project and you get your name on it, sort of confirming that you did. And, who doesn't want their name alongside the likes of, John Carpenter and Barbara Crampton and, Tom Savini? It's a cool idea. And for some people, it's kind of the closest they can get to Hollywood saying that they were part of a project that they believed in. And that's sort of the idea behind it all. So I think it's great. And it's much appreciated that you guys do that. And I think it's wonderful that you do put Civil Gore, so people are, it does bring attention to your podcast.
Yeah, and actually, we almost ended the podcast after we got during one of the Halloween tweet parties. John Carpenter liked one of our tweets, and Tim and I just were like, "Well, that's it
done.
now. We've got to the pinnacle.
Nice.
I mean, where do we go from there? It's like
well, we're kind of in a time now where like the internet and crowdfunding projects and all that kind of stuff like that. It sort of becomes this great equalizer. I think we're living in an unprecedented time where you can get much easier access to interact with the people that you admire. And it's super cool. Gosh, I mean, the first time I ever had like Mark Hamill like one of my tweets, I was just like, stick a fork in me. I'm done. It's good.
Yeah, I'm still trying to get his attention. Every so often I'll try and get his
Just
notes.
don't ask him to do a birthday shout out. He got a little tired of that.
Yeah, no, what's funny is because it's like I never know it. Like, you by the time he does a tweet, I see like 65,000 other comments, and I'm like, well, I don't want to say something that's he's already seen on there. So it's like, and I really rack my brain. By the time I'm done, I'm so exhausted. I never comment on anything. I just like and share his stuff because he is a gem though with his stuff that he puts out there.
He's a monster kid through and through. I've interviewed a couple times. I've met him. I've interviewed him a couple times, and one of the great interviews I had with him was for Famous Monsters. When Force Awakens came out, because he was more than happy to talk to me because it was Famous Monsters, and that made such an impression on him when he was a kid. And he went so far as to say that he owes his career to a certain degree to Famous Monsters because it brought to his attention that you can work in the entertainment industry. Like King Kong to him was like Star Wars to us. It blew his mind, and it made him start thinking about movie making. And when he would the craft of movie making, he was a huge fan of Lois O'Brien and Ray Harryhausen and all those movies. And, he would read the pages of Famous Monsters, and it would share these behind the scenes tales. And he realized that this could be a job if it's a path that he wanted to go down, whether it was acting or whether it was something behind the camera creatively. And so, if you want to get his attention, you got to appeal to his hobbies and his passions, and it shouldn't be Star Wars. It should be like, it should be the Kinks or Faulty Towers or.
Oh my God, I love Faulty Towers.
Or Aurora model making or Famous Monsters or something like that.
Hey, Tim, you're writing this down, right?
Attention.
Yeah, I'm taking notes.
We're starting our Mark Hamill notice.
Yeah,
campaign.
Well, there you go. I mean, he's a geek through and through. So what's cool about him is he's just like a regular guy. He loves comic books and he loves pop culture, and that's the way to his heart.
Oh yeah, no,
Nice,
he's
nice.
the best. He's awesome.
Yeah, I know when you mentioned Discord, I've noticed that this pandemic has actually driven a lot of innovation in terms of a lot of the conventions going online, which I thought was really cool, and doing a lot of events. And I just wonder if and when things get back to normal, I'm hoping that a lot of those things that were born out of this continue to hang around, and you have more online avenues to attend conventions and do celebrity meetups online and that kind of thing. It's really, really neat.
I agree with you. I think I do believe they will, because I think we're still stuck. And so we're getting used to this, even though we don't want to be. And so I think there's a certain element of communication. Like, it's funny now. People want to talk to me and I say, well, are we going to Zoom or Skype? I never used to do that before. But I'm so used to now, well, a phone call? What's that? Aren't we going to do it through the computer? And so I think it was sort of going that way anyway, but not enough people wanted to stop and sit in front of their computer. But now it's kind of part of our life and part of our process. And so I think more people will make the effort to interact with celebrities when they can't go to a convention. I would like to think and hope that some of these stars and filmmakers will take a certain amount of time to do online interaction like they're doing now. So people who can't physically go to a convention because it's in another city, or they just can't do it, or there's a conflict, they can still have part of that excitement and experience and interaction and, participate. And, gosh, we were all doing chat rooms when AOL first sort of came out, and we did want to do that because it was new and interesting. And there's a large part of the world that's still just doing, BB, what do they call them? BB boards? What were they?
Like the old bulletin boards, yeah.
So it's out there, and I think we're just sort of swinging back a little bit. And I think we're living in, because it's a more of a tumultuous time, social media has gotten that much more toxic. But I think I would like to think, as the optimist that I am, that there are people who are learning how to navigate that properly and find groups that are positive and welcoming and encouraging and engaging and stimulate your mind and your nostalgia, as opposed to try and one-up you and be condescending and, cliquey. they're out there and we can find them. That's the kind of thing that it's very important to us to try and build with these Discord communities. So, we're one of the ones where we think we can welcome fans from whatever walk of life, as long as they want to talk about fun stuff and do fun things.
Yeah, I noticed horror generally is a place you can find that. And it's so funny because, people would bash horror for years, but we have met some of the most amazing people that we've never met in person, but we feel like we've known them forever. Just meeting them through the podcast, through listening to other podcasts, through social media, in the horror communities. It's great. And it's like the one place I thought used to be that way was the Star Wars community. And that one is just all over the place to the point where I can't even go in them anymore because I'm just like, all right, okay, let's bring up The Last Jedi one more time while you don't like it. It's like I can't deal with it anymore. Like Star Wars used to bring so many people together. And my best friend and I that I met in 4th grade, we met because of Star Wars. We started off as mortal enemies and then realized we both love Star Wars. And that became the basis of our friendship years later. I mean, it's still today we'll sit there, we'll see every Star Wars movie together, opening night. And,
they're out there. There's a contingent out there, whether it's an original trilogy contingent or just the we won't bash Star Wars contingent.
I gotta find that one.
They're out there. They're just harder to find. And sadly, if you go to the a general Star Wars collective, you're probably going to find a lot of bad apples who are overly cynical and obnoxious. So it is very sad, and it put me off to a very strong degree at a certain point as well. But they're out there. I've seen them, and I gravitate to the ones who are just not so cynical.
Yeah. Tim and I actually were saying we kind of have the basis of it there. We haven't really put it live yet, but we're trying to we set up a Civil Gore Discord, which we call Civil Discord, but we haven't actually, gone point past the initial setup.
Well, you know what? Your litmus test needs to be the Star Wars Holiday Special. If they like it, they're in. If they trash it, genuinely saying this is horrible, they just don't understand.
Oh my God. I've watched that special. I can't even tell you how many times. And I remember watching it when it first aired. And I had this vision of it that it was on every year as a kid. And I don't know if that's true. I think it ended up being.
No, it was one and done. And then George Lucas smashed the tapes.
Right. Yeah. But I somehow remember, but what's funny about it is I remember then, when I discovered it again years later, when it started getting that convention circulation where you would get the videotape and it would come with the real old commercials, that was cool. And then when you realize that was the first appearance of Boba Fett, you're like, oh yeah, whoa, wait a minute. This thing's got some kind of like other appeal now to this. And I mean, oh my God, I can't even tell you how many times I watched that thing over and over again. The fact that they got B. Arthur and Jefferson Starship. I mean, it's like the collection of people. That thing should be going. I don't care what anyone says. That thing should go into the Hall of Fame of something. I don't know. That thing was.
Oh, epic. It's great. Listen, and I'm the one who brought it up and said don't bash it, but I will be the first to also say that it's a bit of a hard watch. But it's all about the context. It's like. Before that came around, like the closest you got to seeing Star Wars other than seeing it 70 times in the theater, which we were all happy to do, and we could all afford back then because movies were, $1 to $3 back then. You'd have to watch the Donnie and Marie Star Wars, Friday special with Chris Christopherson as Han Solo, where they had, and Donnie and Marie as Luke and Leia, They knew ahead of time they were brother and sister.
Yeah. I have that on there was a tape. There was a whole
Dancing
series of
stormtroopers, and sorry, I'm interrupting.
Yeah, no, it's crazy
because I
have
flashing before my eyes.
There was a thing I bought at convention once. It was called Star Wars Rarities, and it had like full segments of that stuff on there. Where it was like, it had that. It had clips from the Muppet Show. It had someone like went painstakingly must have edited like every single movie review that they could get hold of from the news. It is like a really cool thing that I still have that videotape somewhere. I think I might have it I might have transferred it to a DVD now somewhere, but
that era was a different era because that you couldn't get everything at your fingertips. Star Wars, Star Trek, Planet of the Apes, whatever you were into, the Twilight Zone. It's like people had buttons. but you couldn't go to any store and buy merchandise. There was limited stuff. They had it in toy stores. They had it, they had model kits and stuff like that. You can get a book and a tie-in, but it sort of came down to after that, other than like buying the soundtrack and the story of Star Wars, all you had were magazine clippings and Topps trading cards, and you kind of had to wait until the next movie came out, and then where they got a little smarter with really sort of blanketing the system with more merchandising and tie-ins and Burger King drink glasses and stuff like that. They had that the first time around too. They had the soft drink tie-in drink glasses, but it's like it was harder to find back then. And so we all listen. I have my story of Star Wars. It pains me because I still have the original vinyl album, but what I don't have is I don't have the insert booklet because I cut it up and I pasted it to my bedroom door because those were the only color pictures I could get of Star Wars,
I think I have that one too. I also had one, I remember it was called, I think it was an Empire Strikes Back version, but it was the same one, but it was just called The Adventures of Luke Skywalker, but it was basically the Empire Strikes Back record album of them going through the story.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I remember one thing I am so mad that I lost because this was like, remember when they used to do those they looked like a paperback book, but they were full comics in them, but they were paperback books. And there was one I had, it was literally called Star Wars 2. And it was just a totally original comic book. It was it was all in black and white when you opened it up and read through it. And I vaguely remember the story, what it was about, but I just remember thinking that was so cool because I was, and
that must have been the thing I wrote because we had I can't remember what grade it was that we all had to write a book. And so I wrote Star Wars 2 and I illustrated it and I wrote the whole story and continuation of the saga. And I was very proud that I got to put it in our library at the school so other kids could read it. So you must have gotten a copy.
I must have got the only copy. I don't.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to search for that
now.
I have to find that because I'm sure someone has got to have it. I could not have been, like the one. I mean, because I have some weird collectibles in there. Like I literally have a vial that contains Tunisian sand that from Tatooine. It was a promo. It came with a I don't know if you saw that documentary.
No, that's the dirt from Dracula's castle. I think you're confusing that.
It's the same one, right? Yeah. It was from I think it was called The Force Among Us. It was a documentary that this guy and his I don't know, it was his wife and his sister. I don't know, they went and they traveled to different locations and it was all about Star Wars fans. They did a sequel too, but I remember the first one. If you pre-ordered it because they went to Tunisia to film it, they came back with like pounds of the sand, and they gave it to you in like this tiny little vial that would come with your with your.
That's
more
good
valuable
right
than a piece of the Berlin Wall, if you ask me.
Yeah, I cannot find this. Oh, I see a fake one, but it's like it's not the real one. I'm gonna dig that up. I'm gonna find a picture of it somehow and send it to you.
No pun intended.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are very good times. Very good times.
So I guess we'll take a shift here now from because at the end we'll go through the doc again and where everyone can find it. But we definitely want to talk Halloween because I know you're a big Halloween fan. People can't see, but you're wearing a really cool shirt celebrating Halloween. But so what we want to know is like what kind of like some of your favorite, because I know you and I have gotten into cool memory discussions from when we were kids since we grew up so close. That's amazing. We didn't know each other back in the day, but so what kind of favorite memories do you have and some of your favorite costumes you might have had?
I have very, 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 very happy memories of Halloween from like when I was super little to when I was a tween, everything from going, okay, listen, stop me because you'll get bored, but I'll go through my entire lifetime of costumes and happiness. But I mean, I remember as early as a little tyke in my neighborhood, someone had this, we went to the house with the quote unquote talking pumpkin. And someone basically just had a speaker, in a pumpkin and was off to the side with a microphone. And that was it, I guarantee you. But I believed the talking pumpkin was real. And I could not wait to go to the house with the talking pumpkin because the talking pumpkin would talk to me and ask me about my costume. And these were very important memories like that. And like, I remember I was really I would love Felix the Cat. And so my mom made a Felix the Cat costume for me. And I walked around so proudly that I was Felix the Cat on Halloween. But the reality of that was that she made it herself. She gave me cat ears. She painted whiskers on me. And the costume that she made was out of this material that was black and white striped vertically. And I looked more like a convict than I did like Felix the Cat. And I remember very specifically going from door to door, and they're like, "And who are you?" And I'd look at them incredulously like, "I'm Felix the Cat. Why are you asking me too?"
Yeah.
But I have lots of happy memories. I mean, I won't dominate the floor. I want to ask you guys about your memories. But it's like I went out every Halloween. We had a great neighborhood where lots of candy. I don't know if you guys had Mischief Night the night before. Sometimes people called it Devil's Night, where people would get into a little mischief and, break things. We didn't do that, but that was definitely a thing in our neighborhood. But I mean, up until the point where I was like a tween, where I still wanted to go out, but I was too cool for it. So we'd go trick or treat, but we dress as quote unquote bums. And you would take a wine cork and you'd light the end of the wine cork so it would be all dark and burnt. And you'd wipe that on your face like you had a 10 o'clock shadow. And you'd go around and you'd have a hidden can of shaving cream. And you'd have shaving cream fights and kids would throw eggs at each other. This is a very New York thing.
Yeah.
It sounds really awful and destructive. But these are my memories. This is kind of the world I lived in. And lastly, I'll say, and I'll throw it back to you because I could obviously keep on going for an hour if you really want me to. I just had lots of happy memories. And I was everything from Quasimodo, the Hunchback from Notre Dame, to Spock, to Batman, to as I got older, I wanted to be monsters each and every time. And I have a very specific, very happy memory of the day after Halloween reading the newspaper. And this was in the 70s. And this is back when it was hard to get a really quality, movie quality, full-headed mask. Those were like expensive things. And you couldn't get that at like your local Woolworths.
It was the plastic boxed ones, right?
Yeah, you had your Ben Cooper, Collegeville kind of costumes, which I was a regular consumer of. And I remember reading in the newspaper the next morning, there was a picture of a guy on his porch. And he was in like overalls. He was just wearing regular clothes, but he had a full head movie quality Creature of the Black Lagoon mask on.
Oh,
and the subtitle of the picture said, "This man gave out very little candy last night," implying the kids were too afraid to go up to him because he looked like a freaking creature from Black Lagoon.
Oh my God, Tim would have ran up and sat in his lap.
Yeah, really.
I just remember that moment thinking to myself, that will be me. I will be that guy. One day I will own a house and I will be the guy who sits out front with candy with a mask that I won't scare the little kids, but I'm going to scare the kids. I'm going to make an experience. And I always, I aspired to do that. And I did when I got older. So lots of happy memories.
Yeah, we have a guy that up the street that always, every year for, last at least decade, has dressed like Michael Myers. He sits in a rocking chair on his front porch. He's got the full jumpsuit. He's got a machete, a real machete, mind you. And he sits on the porch and he just sits there motionless with a bowl of candy and waits for the kids to come up. And most of them are too terrified to go up there. But for the kids that do go up there, he'll drag the machete across the concrete. Give them the candy and then give them a friendly wave as they go off. He's awesome. I love that guy.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, see, when I was a kid, it was good and bad. So I basically, when I lived in an apartment building, so I think it had a total of like 12 floors in it. So basically, I never had to leave the house, but that did give me like literally like 60 apartment doors.
That's a windfall.
Oh my God. I would come back.
A candy windfall.
Yeah, with ridiculous amounts of candy because everyone in the building had, and I had some friends in the building. So it was kids like on every floor. You'd go out of the elevator and like, how you see those those Halloween movies where it's like you see a neighborhood and there's like hundreds of kids running back and forth. But the picture of that, but like on an apartment floor, that was what it was kind of like, so just kids running in and out of the elevator.
Unless you're that one guy on, in the hallway who who likes like, damn kids, you're making all the noise.
That guy lived on my floor actually, and he threw away my soccer ball because I was playing soccer in the hall. So that was
one guy.
That was a whole incident in itself. Yeah.
Well, these days, they get sued or whatever. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, we didn't really know how to justify it back then. It was just, I mean, I did almost kick him in the head with it. So I mean,
well, there
he
you
probably
go.
had a case back also. So, but it was good. But,
I actually have a very specific memory where I remember I got wise, where I figured the bigger the bag, the more candy I can have. I finally kind of clued into that, and I remember I got this massive paper shopping bag from Wallbaum's or something like that with handles, and I was just
Tim doesn't know Wallbaum's.
I know Walmart and Walgreens.
Wallbaum's they're all gone now, which is sad. I loved Wallbaum. I worked at Wallbaum's actually.
Did you? Yeah. Well, I worked at Wallbaum's when it changed to the Food Emporium. Actually, I was a stock boy there.
See, it never changed near me on Long Island. It always stayed Wallbaum's until like 6 years ago, and the last one finally closed.
Well, the local supermarket, I had this wonderful bag, and I just remember thinking, this is the night that I'm going to have the greatest haul of all epic times. And it had rained earlier that day, and I was nervous whether or not we were going to be able to go trick-or-treating that night, but luckily it stopped raining and we got to go out, and I just like hit every house and filled up that bag with candy. And I remember, because I was so excited, towards the end of the evening, it kind of occurred to me, the bag was not getting heavier at all. And I realized, because I was so short and the bag was so big and the ground was so wet, I was dragging the bag, and I created a big soggy hole in the back of the bag. And I realized that there was a trail of my own candy that I'd collected behind me. And I was
no.
Oh no! Did you go back and pick it all up and have like a second?
It was all soggy, and I picked up a couple of them, but I was like, foiled.
Oh.
But that's a happy memory for me, because it's silly and it's dopey, and we had such a great, there was always that one house that had the not the fun size candy bars, but the mega size, normal size candy bars, and everyone would be like, you got to go to 200, house 227 on Bronson Street. They have the big candy bars. You got to go there. Hurry before they run out. And they'd have like a line outside their house. These are very fond memories. Very fond memories.
One of the best stories I heard. Now, I don't know if I cannot claim that this is 100% accurate, but this was a rumor. When my parents at one point were living in Los Gatos, California, they were right down the street from Steve Wozniak's house. And the rumor was, and this is what I heard, and I was so mad because even though I was a full-grown adult, I was going to drag my brother there, apparently he would give away, I think, to the first 12 people that would come to his door, like an N64 or something like that, like literally or a Game Boy or something.
Nice.
He'd give like that. That's what I heard.
Gosh.
Now I don't know. Like I said, I cannot speak.
See,
that is 100% fact. But
last year I lived down the street from Oprah, and everyone got a car.
Yeah. Can you imagine that? Just like, yeah, here's your key. They're like Mr. Miyagi's garage, and he's like, you pick Danielson, it's like that. Like, just grab one.
Wouldn't that be nice? Actually, though, I don't know where he lives. I know the area of town, but Rick Baker lives kind of close by, and he always dresses up to the nines for Halloween, and I'm sure he gives out ultimate candy as well. I know Tom Savini in Pittsburgh, he gives the big candy bars, but those are the guys where, how cool is it to go trick-or-treating at their houses?
I don't think I'd leave. I'd just hang out there and talk to them the whole night. I'd be like, so I said, could you make me up if I give you some stuff here?
Do I need to explain Rick Baker? So Rick Baker, Oscar, 7-time Oscar winner, 9-time Oscar winner, American Werewolf and everything in between.
I would hope our listeners know that by now, but
Yeah.
And Brian had to apologize to Tom Savini for me because I got too starstruck when I met him at Mad Monster Party, I think it was. And I kind of went up there and just fumbled my way through a picture and autographed, and I felt so awkward. And so Brian was going to meet him the following convention. So I was like, Brian, you got to make up for my terrible showing at the last convention. So
yeah, well, you know me, I'm a New Yorker. I could just go talk. I don't I just go right up to anybody. Tim was even we were at the Chiller, New Jersey Horror Con, and Shannon Elizabeth was there, and I said, we got to go up and say hi, So I was going up because I wanted to actually buy a bracelet for my wife there anyway. But we went up there and Tim just could not speak. So, of course, my big mouth just.
these guys are used to it, you know.
Yeah.
It's the ones who are super nice because you're at a loss for words, where they kind of fill in the blanks and, hey, you know, they kind of they know the drill, so they're like, oh well, you want to take a picture? How's it going? Well, thanks for coming visiting me, you know. And you're just like da da da, and they're like, all right, well, hey, it's a pleasure, and they turn you around and then, you know, point you away from their table.
Yeah, Brian and I made a good team there because he, whenever I got too starstruck, he could just jump in and.
Yeah, I just don't stop talking. But well, yeah, it was funny when I did go to Tom Savini that time. I was talking to him and saying, oh, you know, and I kind of told him Tim's story, and I was saying, you know, about the podcast, everything. He's like, I don't. He goes, it's me. He goes, I'm just a guy from Pittsburgh, you know, and I'm like, you're so not, but okay.
He still lives in the house that I think he grew up in. Wow. He's really down to earth guy, and he decided to stay home in his hometown when he could have gone because of family. I don't know if you've ever seen his documentary. It's quite good.
Yeah.
Called and now I'm at a loss for words. But anyway, it's on Shudder. It's a documentary about him. It's very touching. It's really well done. It kind of explains why he sort of took a couple left turns in his career path, and it all had to do with family and loyalty and being just a stand-up guy.
Yeah, it's funny you said that too, because I don't think I've ever really had a bad interaction at one of these kind of conventions, because I think most people there, if they're there, they're, you know, they know why they're there, and they, you know, I think they really seems like they just totally embrace the fandom. So
Smoke and Mirrors. Smoke and Mirrors is the one I'm thinking of.
Oh, yes. Yeah, we had a good time. That New Jersey HorrorCon, it was great. We met so many people, and it was like the ones we didn't get to meet in the convention, we would literally run into in other places. It was kind of funny because it was all at the central locations. So it was really easy to just keep interacting with everybody.
So now, what are you guys doing for Halloween? Because Halloween is upon us. Are you guys watching lots of? You know, I'm personally watching lots of classic horror. I'm calling it my palate cleanser, because I as much as I love and live and breathe 80s horror, you know, I have to watch a lot for these movies that I'm making, and it's homework, which is the best homework in the world. But I kind of need a little variety, and so I've been really enjoying just going back to Universal Monsters and Hammer Horror and watching the classics, and it's actually been very convenient, even though I have a lot of this stuff on disc. Peacock, which is the NBC Universal thing, they have the majority of those movies are free. The Hitchcock stuff, there's you know, the classic Universal stuff. They have some Hammer stuff as well. And so that you can watch, you know, House of Frankenstein, House of Dracula, Frankenstein meets the Wolfman, Bride of Frankenstein, Son of Frankenstein, Ghost of Frankenstein, you know, all the Mummy movies, all the Invisible Man movies, all the Phantom of the Opera movies. They're all there at the click of a button, and it's really cool to watch and enjoy.
Yeah, we love those movies. We actually do our horror challenge every October. We have it's our 4th annual, and we do it kind of a little differently than a lot of the horror challenge. You know how usually they'll give you a day and you assign it. Well, we don't. What ours is, we don't do. You don't have to do one per day. You just have to have 31 done by October 31st. But what we do is we have different objectives, and you get points for the objectives. So the total points add up to 1,031. And for 1031, and they're like, we make it so that you can't just do one per objective. Some movies have to claim a couple of objectives, so we make it kind of tricky.
We got 65 objectives or something.
Yeah, there's something like that. So literally you need to average. A couple of them are also bonus ones that they kind of like, you know, you'll get a bonus objective for completing the challenge. You get a bonus.
What are give an example of some of these objectives?
So, well, here's one, because you know them pretty well. So there's one we call, it's called It Is Babe, Isn't It? And that one you have to watch a movie with Kelly Maroney or Barbara Crampton in it. And one of my favorite ones, and our friend Ken came up with this one. It's called The Drive-In Never Dies. And you have to watch a movie. Now, granted, it's kind of under the system because there's a bonus involved. You have to watch movies you've never seen before. So for horror fans, the bigger horror fan you are, the trickier this challenge becomes.
Sure.
And so that one, you have to find a movie that features a guest on Joe Bob's The Last Drive-In that survives their movie. So I actually got lucky because I had not seen the for mine I claimed Night of the Demons, the remake, because Tiffany Shepis was in that, and she survived as far as you know, because you did not see her die, and she was a guest in The Last Drive-In. So that's the one I claim for.
Yeah, some of them are
very
tricky.
good.
Yeah, you have to do your research.
Kelly Maroney is a survivor in Chopping Mall, and she's been on Joe Bob.
Right,
so.
but see, Chopping Mall we've seen, so we try and
that's true.
So that's the tricky thing. Like if it was if they didn't have that criteria, I mean, it'd be a no-brainer. But see, that's one of the fun things about this challenge is we try and watch movies that, you know, and you're going to get some duds in there. But like, here's one that I was as a horror fan, I'm ashamed I never saw, was Fade to Black, and I got to watch that, and that claimed like 5 objectives.
Oh, okay. Very cool.
It's like, and I thank God for Shudder that they had that, because I love that movie now. It's one of my favorites.
And Dennis Christopher is a great guy.
Oh,
and
God,
and Breaking Away is one of my all-time favorite movies. Yep. And Fade to Black is a great movie. And he sort of went along on a career that it sort of went in a different direction than you would expect after Breaking Away. So a lot of the horror stuff between that and it, and he did a bunch of other stuff that, is sort of surprising. I don't know where I'm going with this, other than I got to sit down and have lunch with Dennis Christopher on the 35th anniversary of Fade to Black to write a piece for Famous Monsters, and he couldn't have been the cooler cat to sit with.
He seems cool. I actually saw Breaking Away in the theater, which is funny that you mentioned that. I still remember going to see that in the theater. I loved that movie.
Oh yeah, me too. One of my all-time favorites. I saw it at Scarsdale Plaza, which was a 99-cent theater every week.
Yeah, I think I actually saw that one in the city when my dad was living in there. We saw that in the city. That had Jack Earl Haley in it. That had a good cast in there.
Oh yeah. Jackie Earl Haley and Dennis Quaid and Dennis Christopher and Daniel Stern.
Yep.
So yeah, but what you guys are doing with your challenge is great, because you're forcing people to go outside of their comfort zone and view things that they haven't seen before and explore new stuff. And it's very easy to get in our sort of comfort blanket zone and watch the same stuff over and over and over. So, you know, I had never seen The Raven with Karloff and Lugosi. And it was on Peacock, and I'm like, this is easy. I just clicked and watched it, and I really enjoyed it. And I was a bit, I understood it, but I was a bit befuddled because Karloff gets top billing, but Lugosi is clearly the main character. So it's really interesting to see how Lugosi was treated in terms of, box office and billing after after Frankenstein, when Karloff became really big, and all of a sudden Lugosi was second banana, and regretting not taking that Frankenstein monster role.
Yeah, actually, that's one of the challenges too. One of the objectives is we named it Logic Professor Lookalike, because Tim had
that's an inside joke.
Yeah, he had a professor apparently that sounded exactly like Bela Lugosi. So when you have to see a Lugosi movie, you had to.
Yeah, that's we have some deep cuts for longtime listeners of very, very inside jokes. People new to the podcast are probably like, what in the world?
Yeah. But this year, it's funny. This year, it seems like, and I don't know if it's because we actually are doing something right and our podcast is kind of getting out there, or I think people maybe because they're all quarantined, they're bored and they have to find new things to do. But this is definitely our biggest year for this challenge.
Yeah,
wow. I see
that's good.
6 or 7 names I've never seen before, like using our hashtag.
Well, people are spending more time, literally, if they can, just walking in their neighborhood, because we can't stay cooped up all day, and we need some exercise. And so, I'm projecting myself, but it's just like, if I'm not going to be able to listen to my drive time podcast listening, it's like I have my Walkman. They don't make them anymore. That's what I feel like. I feel like I put on my Walkman and listen to a podcast, and that's how I listen to all sorts of, your podcast and other podcasts. It's, that's how I listen to Serial. That's how I got through Serial, which I really enjoyed.
That's a great
Tim, you listened to that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, Serial's fantastic. That's probably one of the ones that actually got me really hooked on podcasts big time. I've been listening to 1 or 2 here and there, and then now I subscribe to like 30 or 40 of them.
That's good though. Listen, it took a pandemic for people to pay attention to the Civil War podcast. It must be your doing.
We hope. I still don't know. We somehow like. Well, it's funny because based off of the way we got this podcast, I think we've told you before, was from another podcast, a Coaster podcast called Coaster Radio. That's how Tim and I met through one of their events, and they kind of we've always kind of tried to model and try to emulate the best of what they do, and I remember they told us once, they're like, you know what, just do what you're doing. Don't kind of go, don't do anything crazy. Just keep following your consistent pattern. And then just like one day your audience will just get there and start going. And that's exactly what happened. I mean, granted, they had I think they got there faster than we did, but I'm kind of happy where we are. I mean,
podcast market's crowded though. I mean, it's hard to break.
Well, consistency is key. And as long as you consistently are doing your podcast, people will see that you're in it for the long haul. I'm friends with the guys who do the Monster Party podcast. They've been doing that for 7 years, every 2 weeks, consistently. They have a brand new podcast, and so people like reliability, even with their podcast, because so if they haven't listened in a while, they come back hoping that there's something new and looking for a backlog that they can sort of touch upon. And I do the same thing. Like I might I'll discover a new podcast, but I'm already going back to the previous ones to see who are the guests, what were the topics. And as long as you're consistently putting it out there, people will either connect to the rapport that you guys have and the chemistry you have, and the guests that you have on and that kind of stuff like that, or not.
Yeah.
No, actually, people I think we haven't had a bad guest. I think our guests have been great.
Well, until today,
of course. No,
right.
You're actually, I think you're almost going to get a jacket because you're
oh my gosh, you're right.
You're
the three-timers stuff.
Yeah, once you hit 5, you get the 5-timers jacket, like on Saturday
I don't think
Night
we've
Live.
had any 3-timers, have we?
No, not. I mean, nothing officially 3 times.
Well, the thing is, I'm lost. I keep on trying to leave, and I keep on coming back, and there's the Civil Gore podcast again. I'm just lost in the neighborhood. No, I'm happy to chat with you guys. If I wasn't, I wouldn't want to come back. So, and I appreciate you having me on.
Oh yeah, well, we told you, you're welcome anytime.
Yeah, we're very much looking forward to the documentary. That poster is incredible.
Yeah,
I got to talk about the poster again because it's just amazing.
Sure.
Yeah, it's
we've got 3 posters actually. So which one are you talking about? Are you talking about
the skeleton one where the that was awesome.
that's by Dave Morrell, and he did that custom poster for us, and it's really good. And then we have one that Clayton Benj did with the large columns, the Roman numeral 2 column with the kid in front of the TV. And then there's one by Ratchet Loft where everyone is sitting around a TV watching a horror movie, and you see all the horror posters on the wall. All amazing posters, all amazing and different, but they all sort of they sort of capture a piece of nostalgia in one way or another. And if you notice on the Dave Morrell poster, the zombie woman skeleton thing, which I don't know, we should probably give it a name, or her name, or it a name. It's got the Rebels cheerleader, costume from Night of the Comet. So there's lots of Easter eggs where you could spend quality time just, combing through the poster to find lots of great little references.
You should do a contest. Like if you find every one, you get like a prize.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll wrap this up. Get to we'll give you one more shot to do this, but we have a very important question. This is probably your toughest question you're going to face tonight. But we need to know: 1, what is your favorite Halloween candy, and 2, what's your favorite monster cereal?
Oh, that's easy. That's well. I think it's got to be crunchy and it's got to be chocolatey. And so if it's crunchy and chocolatey, it's got to be either Kit Kat or Nestle's Crunch, with maybe Twix as an honorary sort of third wheel, even though I'm not a big fan of caramel that much. Twix has just not enough to make it good. But yeah, Kit Kat plus, those are so good. They melted in my pocket so many times though. But, and then when it comes to monster cereal, here's the thing. I am a Count Chocula guy through and through, but when it comes to the box art and the mascot, and of course I'm talking about the vintage art, not the contemporary art, which I kind of despise. I love Boo Berry. I'm a big Boo Berry fan. I was always creeped out by Frankenberry's fingernails being strawberries. That just
Yeah.
that just was wrong. I would stay up late at night thinking about that and getting the heebie-jeebies. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, it was kind of funny because growing up, I think I was a big Frankenberry because I don't like Blueberry was harder to find for some reason. I remember I didn't see it as much, and Count Chocolate I would get also. But then years later, I remember in college when they started to release them, you could get them every so often. Blueberry was spotted at this one particular grocery store that we literally combed every chain until we found them and would just buy them up. And now it's like, every year you get the 3. But I remember it was about 6 years ago when they released Fruit Brute and Fruity Yummy
And
Mummy
Yummy
again.
Mummy, that's right. Yeah.
And I bought literally, I think I had a case total of all of those things. And I remember my wife was like, she was like, "Are you even going to eat all these?" I'm like, I kind of did that Kramer from Seinfeld, like, I overbought, like I didn't mean to. I got caught up in the excitement and just.
I still have when Target came out with the vintage boxes. Maybe that was 6 years ago. I got. I'm looking at them right now on my shelf. Count Chocula, Blueberry, and Frankenberry. I don't think they had, or at least where I was, they didn't have Fruit Brute or Yummy Mummy. But those, just looking at those and having those, especially where on the backside they have the cutout masks.
Oh, the mask.
Oh, yeah, those are great.
That just brings me tremendous joy. And I remember, actually, I'm old enough to remember when there was only Count Chocula and Frankenberry, and when Blueberry was new. And I got all excited, and I loved the Blueberry character, and maybe that's why I connect with that so much.
Yeah, I've been doing the mega mix is what I do. I mix all 3 into one, and it's like the flavors end up blending into one thing. Count Chocolate is the only flavor that sticks out a little bit in that mega mix.
The real question, because I never went down the rabbit hole of Fruit Brute versus Yummy Mummy. What's the difference in terms of flavor? Isn't Yummy Mummy kind of fruity too? I don't know.
Yeah, one of them was. And I, since it's now been years since I've had them, one of them had a more orange flavor to it, and one of them was more of
the color orange versus the flavor orange.
Yeah, but like it wasn't like I just remember it had like more of a different. But I noticed that like I don't know if it was just I recently noticed this, but I think the marshmallows now are the same in Blueberry and Frankenberry. I think I don't know if it's like a new thing or they just got really lazy and didn't. I
wouldn't put it past them. I don't know. All I could say is I'm happy that they come out every Halloween now.
Yeah.
And so, I can't wait till they put the vintage boxes out again. I'm sure they will at some point or another. But and if they're not, if you're listening, was it General Mills? Yeah, General Mills.
Well, I saw like a lot of people are petitioning to get Creature Crunch. They want a creature base.
Oh man,
yeah.
great.
And imagine that green. I mean, come on, they easy.
Why not? Hey, listen, I gladly ate Pac-Man cereal when that came out. So,
Yep.
Oh yeah.
It was sort of like Lucky Charms, but not. So
yeah. Oh my God, I ate that. I made Circus Fun. Do you remember that one?
Oh my God, yes.
That was like that was the everything. It had like the flavor of like a Twix or something like that, a Fruit Loop kind of thing, but then with every marshmallow ever made in there. It's like it was nuts.
There's something to be said for absolute nostalgia for sugar cereal from our youth. I mean,
oh my God, yeah.
Whether it was like, I remember my parents would buy me this thing called King Vitamin, probably because it had vitamin in the name, but it was, this king, and he had like spoons on his crown, and he looked more like Burger King than King Vitamin, I think, in my memory. But either way, it still was like eating candy, and Freakies and stuff like that. And I just here's the exciting culmination of my story here is I remember my mom one day, she must have either talked to a friend or read an article, but all the sugar cereals, I mean, we had a steady supply of Trix and Captain Crunch and Count Chocula and everything in between, all that stuff. Then one day, all gone. Literally, not even if there were a half box left, it was gone. And all that was in there was like, mini wheats, which of course had sugar anyway, but mini wheats and like Cheerios and like muesli and things like that. And I was just like, oh, this is horrible. But This was not intentional, but I think, the sugar gods had the last laugh, because I remember I would take Cheerios and I'd pour it in a bowl, and then I'd go scoop of sugar, 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 to the point where every spoonful of the Cheerios, I had like a sandbar of sugar that would go with about 4 Cheerios, and I probably consumed 10 times more sugar that way than I did with the cereal that we originally had.
That was like my grandparents did that. They'd take a Raisin Bran, and they knew I wouldn't eat it otherwise. They'd put sugar in it and then like shake it like in another. They put another bowl on top and shake it all in, so I had all the sugar on top of the raisins.
These are important things that we're talking about.
They are. These are things that need to be passed down to the youth of today. They need to know these tricks.
Oh, my kids are well aware of sugar cereal. There's no danger of it not getting passed down in my family for sure.
Hey, I'm really happy that my kid just took to Apple Jacks. I'm like, that stuff's good. He was into Fruit Loops. I'm like, if you like Fruit Loops, Apple Jacks is 10 times better. You don't even know.
And now they have caramel Apple Jacks, which you might have not like caramel, but I've been kind of interested to try that.
That's cool. That's cool. Well, it's also, I remember when Cookie Crisp came out.
Oh my God.
And even me as a kid, I was like cookies for breakfast? Really? You're not even trying.
Didn't they have like 2 types of that? They had a different flavor one, right? They had at one point they had like sugar cookie crisp or something. They had another version.
Probably. And then there was there was Sugar Smacks, and then like Super Sugar Smacks, and that was not Cookie Crisp, but dig 'em.
Those are gone, right? Sugar Smacks. They don't
well,
exist
anything with like sugar in the title, they probably call them Smacks now, and they probably still have them. It's like
I probably just didn't catch it.
It's like KFC. Don't tell anyone what the F is in the KFC. Maybe they won't notice that it's still fried chicken.
It's just fantastic chicken. Kentucky fantastic chicken.
Arguably.
I saw one the other day that was like donuts. It was like literally mini donuts.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and did they make like Dunkin' Donuts cereal now?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm lamenting the fact that the cereal prize is just nowhere near as good. The one in Cracker Jacks is nowhere near as good. You used to get like a little plastic airplane, or at least a cool, now it's just like a tattoo or like a horoscope saying you're going to die early from eating too much sugar.
If you finish this box, you will not make it.
Oh man. Well, David, it was a pleasure talking to you tonight. And again, we're so looking forward to the documentary and happy to have you on. And always welcome back on the show. And we would like to give you one more chance to tell our listeners where you can find this awesome documentary and how you're going to be able to get your hands on it, because I'm definitely going to go out and order it.
Well, thanks. I really appreciate you guys having me on. It's fun talking about these extremely important topics of our life and our childhood memories. I mean, these are the things. Listen, Jethro Tull's "Living in the Past" is my favorite song for a reason. I really do live in the past, even though I do recognize that the present exists at certain times. I hide back in denial and I live in the past. And so these movies that I made are very much love letters to the past and nostalgia trips, and ideally introductions to movies that you may never have either seen or even heard about. And so if you go to 80shorrordoc.com, you can get In Search of Darkness Part 2. It's part of a whole package that is available that I described earlier, with posters and digital copies and the hard copy of the film. I keep on saying hard copy. Is that something people say? The Blu-ray and the DVD and
I don't know what I always just say. I like the disc. That's how I say
physical
it.
copy.
Yeah,
Thank you. Physical
Yeah,
copy. There you go.
Yeah.
I feel like it's a hard copy. It's like you get a printout of the film. But you get all that stuff, and it's through.
Pages.
It's long. Trust me. If you look at the script, it's very long, and it's going through only available, and then available nowhere else. Only available through now until midnight, and you get to get your name in the credits and all that kind of stuff like that. We're not. There's zero plans to distribute it in any other way, shape, or form. So now's the time to jump on it. And if you don't want, and you get the community as well, which is super cool. But I understand, we're in tough times right now, and it can be a tall order. But I've seen many people who regret not jumping on this a year ago when we did the same kind of offer. because then you couldn't get the movie. It was very difficult to get, and it was very hard to get a hard copy, a digital copy, and stuff like that. So anyway, I appreciate the platform to draw attention to it, 80shorrordoc.com, and if you go on social media at 80shorrordoc is the way to find it. And if you want to find me personally on Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, go to on Twitter, I'm at Tiki Ambassador, but you could also find me on all those other platforms at itcamefromblog.com, which is my website. Sorry,
yeah, and I will say
at itcamefromblog for the website, which is itcamefromblog.com.
and I will say people have come to us after that and told us that they were upset that they did not jump on that for the first one. I know, and they were begging, they were like, "Is there any way we can watch it?" I'm like, I no, right now.
That's the thing. I urge, listen, if you want to buy it, great. If you don't want to buy it, that's perfectly understandable, but it's when it ends, and it's going to be really hard to get. And so don't procrastinate, because we only have a short window between now and Halloween. And if you put it, and like I said, you could get the first movie as well. So if you don't have that in hand, you could add that for I think $15 on top of what you would pay. And so that's an amazing deal. But you ultimately get 9 hours of entertainment, plus you get a season pass for 12 months. Of this Discord community with very, watch parties with, you get to talk to the people who make these movies, and that's super cool as well. So it goes beyond the documentary to become this year-long experience that's very interactive with an extremely welcoming community.
Yeah, I mean, and especially if you look at the price versus what you could do these days, you can't go out to the movies, really. I mean, like Tim going to his family goes out to the movies. It's almost the cost of this disc. And this is something you'll have forever. And for horror fans, I don't even think it's something you'd want. It's something you need and want.
It's like a time capsule. So, I mean, you have now it's like, I can't even count an exact head count, but where you're looking at close to 60 people talking about the era and how important it was. And it's a time capsule with a lot of these folks who aren't getting any younger. And so the fact that they talk about their own movies, but they talk about their influences and the things that they love and why this whole era and their childhood influences are important to them. That's cool stuff. And it's nice to have as a reference.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So everyone order that. Don't even hesitate, because you do not want to regret not having this one, because we're going to be raving about it and then you're going to be jealous.
Yep.
So yeah, David, thank you. Once again, it's like, I feel like David is like, it's amazing. I still think that how we did not know each other back from where we lived, like a town over from each other.
Why didn't we collide on our bikes on a Sunday afternoon on the expressway when they would close it down and we could ride our bikes?
Yeah, especially when I collided with everybody else, because I was a horrible bike rider as a kid. So see, I was not breaking away.
I had my orange bike flag, so you could see me coming with Evel Knievel on it.
Nice. All I know is
that's a very limited short window of time reference, but there was a time when it was very trendy where you would have a big long bouncy rod on the back of your bike with an orange flag on the back, so you could be seen. Yeah, that's a dopey thing.
I know.
We didn't wear helmets, but we had a flag.
Right. Yeah, it was because priorities back then. You rather have a flag waving as you have a gash coming out of the side of your head.
Exactly. Well, it's an absolute pleasure, and I appreciate you guys having me on. And
anytime. So when In Search of Darkness 3 comes out, you'll come back on.
Absolutely. Well, hey, when In Search of Tomorrow comes on, if not before.
Oh yeah, yeah, definitely.
Oh yeah. That's what I meant. Sorry, I meant that one.
Okay.
3 also. I meant both. Actually, I meant both.
We might have an In Search of Darkness 3. You never know. We'll see how well this does. But hey, thanks again, guys. I really do appreciate it, and I really enjoy chatting with you. So always a pleasure.